Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations. Thanks for checking us out today. We're kind of in that in-between stage. As much as it's sweltering hot in here, people aren't buying as much stuff for summer because, you know, even though summer weather and beautiful weather can go into September and early October, people tend to think of summer as July and August, or certainly here in Ontario, it's July and August. That's when people take holidays, that's when the nicer weather is here, and that's what people think. So we're nearing the end of July, so people think it's half over, which means they're not really spending as much on summer decor. It means for me as a shop owner, and you, if you do markets or have a small booth, you need to start pulling together some early fall projects. You need to start bringing in some of those transitional sort of things. You're not full out fall leaves yet. People aren't ready for that, but you are starting to introduce a little bit of the looks, a little bit of the feels, a little bit of the colors. So that's what today's all about. I need to do a couple of projects pulling some of that together. Two that I'm gonna go a little bit less fall, and one that's gonna be a little bit more full on fall because it sort of needs it. They're also kind of thrift flip, in one case garbage, garbage flips. Garbage flips just doesn't sound as good though, so we're going with thrift flip. So one is this big concrete cement planter. It's got a lot of this ivy, which is sort of old and tired, definitely dusty. I'm going to be pulling out all of these picks and washing them off. I'm not going to get rid of them. They're perfectly good, but they are dirty. So they need cleaning, and the easiest way to do that is take them out. And then that allows me to do some other stuff. And I mean, look, these are awesome picks. And it's kind of whether I use them in this project, and I may, or another one, which is likely, then this is great value for the money that I spent on this, because this is a great bundle. So we've got this guy. And what I am going to do is paint it out in DIY weathered wood. I want it to go darker. And it's kind of, I think that you guys can see, it's discolored. And so I want to go darker. I'm going to go weathered wood. And then we're going to do a wax treatment to bring out those wonderful details before we do any flower arranging. The other one that I have that requires some painting is this cute little basket. So I'm gonna pop out the little bit of floral foam, and I'm hanging on to it even though it looks old and tired, because, and they've got felt on the back here, just because it's already cut in my semicircle and it's still perfectly fine to use. So I am going to recycle that. But this is looking kind of worn. So we are going to dry brush it with, what color am I doing? Homestead Blue from Fusion. So in this case, I'm using an all-in-one paint because, glasses, because I want to be one and done, right? I don't want to, and here I'm just kind of, I always keep going on my table here. Okay, so I just want to dry brush. So I just want to have something to kind of wipe my excess brush. So I'm just wiping it off on an old cloth. And then we're just going to kind of dry brush it over and just kind of pick it up. I'm not looking for it to be a bright color because I want the contrast with some of the florals and things. And this kind of works well with that weathered wood still showing through, so I'm not looking for perfect coverage, but it definitely looks good with that darker wood. So I'm gonna get this painted, And I'm gonna get this all painted in weathered wood. I'll come back as we finish it. This is gonna seal itself and be finished. So once it's dry, we're ready to go. The third project, which I'm very excited about, the find, kind of find of the century. You guys may think I'm weird on this one. It does not require painting because it is beautifully rusted. So we're gonna do some fall decor on this one. This is the one that may look a little bit more fallish, but it's awesome. Look at that rust, look at the patina. This is so perfect. I'm so excited about this one. Still working in my head on what the heck I'm doing with it, but I'm doing something with it. So I think it's gonna be great. So that's gonna be a hanging decor. I mean, you can put it on a tabletop, kind of spiky end down, but I'm thinking of it more as a hanging wall or door decor. So we'll see how that one goes. But I was so excited to find out. All right, I'm gonna get painting, get these drying off so that we can start moving forward on it. And you know what? There's nothing magical about this technique. The magic is all in the paint. So I love wicker that is just dry brushed so that we get that two-tone effect. And that homestead blue just really works well with that deeper wicker look. So I'm gonna paint it outside, and I will paint a little bit of the inside rim and just a little bit down here. I don't anticipate that people are gonna see it, but you know, until I start doing the florals, I don't know for sure. So I'm gonna take care of it right now so I don't have to worry about it later. All right, we used so little paint that this is virtually dry. I mean, it feels cool, it feels cold, which means it's not dry. It's got a slight tack to it, but nothing's coming off, so I can handle it at least. So to start, we're gonna stick that piece of floral foam back in. And what I'm thinking is I wanna use these. All right, I'm bad. Are these hyacinths? I don't know, maybe. But the contrast with that blue and that brown is gonna be lovely. And as much as these kind of bloom in the summer, kind of that yellow, moving into some of the burnt colors is just kind of that summer to fall look that we're after. So what I'm thinking is we use a lot of these sprigs as our filler. I have some of these little, almost like wheat kind of stems, right? And I'm thinking that I might be able to move some of these elements further up the stem so I get a lot of that texture happening, because I'm not gonna need that full length, right? Then that's gonna be sitting a little too high. Now, I can use a handle to hang it from, so I can have it coming up higher than the handle, but I don't want it that high. I don't want it as high as that. So I'm gonna cut an end off of that. And before I stick it in anywhere, I'm going to do the same with some of these. So I cut 3, and I cut one slightly taller than the other 2, so that the 2 can go on the sides, the 1 can go in the middle, and that works. I'm thinking I might want to just kind of jam this a little bit here. Old pieces of floral foam, just that I've carved off of sides. I'm just gonna stuff that in behind, because I don't want this to flop all over. Perfect. So that's gonna hold in place, which then allows us to stick these in. I don't know what I'm doing elsewhere, but I know I've got 3 of these, And so that's my starting place. Because I like them. They give a contrast of color and they've got a different texture and they're kind of spiky and they're cool. All right, so these have to get cut apart. And I want them a little longer. Now, with any of these, you can cut these wherever you need to, but bear in mind that you don't want to show an abrupt end. So I've cut this one so it still looks kind of branching out, which will still work with my design because it's going to kind of fill in there. So see how that kind of branching, I put it coming in behind this so it kind of weaves in and we get some of that color going and you don't see any of that cut, right? That's what I'm talking about. So this one, I will cut it here, right at this joint, right in here. So I'll cut it just there and on an angle so that I get two nice stems that look completely finished. Okay, now I have these little picks with these little roses and a little, I don't know, kind of stick up thing, which is gonna add just a little bit of a newer color and a little bit of a different texture in there. And that's part of what you want when you're looking at your design, is to add a little bit that's going to change it up a bit. You don't want it all looking, all right, this one, we're cutting this off. It's missing all of its little pieces. So you don't want everything looking exactly the same. You want to have some variation in height, variation in some textures, but you do want everything to work color-wise, right? Okay, you are just too tall. All right, so adding those three picks in, I'm really thinking about the only thing that we need is a little bit more of the yellow filler down in front, and then we're kind of good to go. I don't think that it needs a heck of a lot more. And sometimes, you know, sometimes that's the magic, is knowing when to quit, right? And sometimes for some of these designs, that's the biggest challenge, is that you see open spaces and you think, okay, I have to fill that. I have to have something there, as opposed to recognizing that kind of white space works too. So I'm just cutting off some of these lower stems and sticking some of those little guys in just where I need that little extra pop of color, that little bit of yellow to kind of fill in a bit. And then the final touch is a little bit of moss. So you have lots of choices. I mean, you can use the preserved moss, which is going to give you green. You can use kind of like the typical Spanish moss. I was going to say sphagnum, but that's a different kind of thing. So I'm just looking at what I got, what I'm thinking of using. I think I'm just going to take little bits of this, and this gets everywhere, so, you know, it is what it is. And I'm just going to kind of work it down in between my florals. I mean, you could put this in first and then put your florals through it, right? I just do it after because I don't know how much I'm going to need. And I'm not sure until after I've done the flowers if this is the right look, if this is the look that I'm after, if this is the type of moss I want to use. So I tend to do it after I have my florals in place and see which one I think is going to fill in the space better and look a little better for me. And quite honestly, I use a lot less when I do it this way because I only need it in spots where I only need it. This is such a mess. I only need it in the spots where my floral foam is showing. And I think I want you don't have a piece of that. All right, I'm gonna switch to these sprigs. So let me show you what I'm talking about. This sprig has these little berries on it. This sprig has these little berries. This sprig does not. So I'm gonna move this one to the middle and then this one to the side, just so that it's a little bit more balanced. And I don't know how many people would have caught it, but it was bugging me. So if it bugs me, somebody else would have seen it. Okay, that calms my heart. That makes me happier. Okay, so there's our little basket. Just kind of little wildflowers. Now that this pot is dry, we need to add our wax. And what we're going to do, we have glue feathers all over. It felt like spider webs, yuck. All right, so we're gonna take white wax and we are going to, let me go for a detailed section. We're gonna white wax the entire piece, and especially focusing on getting down into the crevices. For something like this, I use a chip brush. One, very inexpensive. Two, because I'm trying to get this down into the concrete, which is a very rough surface, and I don't want to wreck any good brushes, right? So just a cheap little chip brush does the job, and I keep them labeled. So this is the white one. You can tell on a bunch, but all right. And then I'm just gonna wipe it back. So what happens is, because this paint isn't sealed, the white wax is going to actually sink down into that paint. So it's gonna soften it. So you can see that it goes from a very dark color to a much lighter color. But what it does also do for us is here on the details, it makes them pop. It highlights them for us so that we get better contrast. We get to see those details a little bit more than if it was just a one single unified color. So it perks it up a little bit more. So I have 2 more sides to go. Then we're just going to leave this to finish drying overnight. And tomorrow we'll start zhuzhing it up more. Okay, we've got our little pot. And what I did do was I washed off these little ivy picks, and they turned out great. So they looked really dull and boring until they got all washed off. Now, there were 3, and I'm thinking that I'll maybe use 2, because I want to add some florals. I don't want it to just be green. So The nice thing about these picks, and I'm just debating whether I should, okay, let's start that again. I'm just wondering whether I wanted to use a little bit more moss around the edges. And I think I do. Let me just maybe pull it apart over top of the thing so a lot of the excess goes there. Just because I don't think I'm going to be able to push these in around. Okay. Well, that didn't help. That didn't help anything, did it? Okay. So let's do that. And there were a couple of big existing holes, so let's put those in there. And get them nice and low. So it's very, now don't get me wrong, I'm gonna need glasses. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it just being green. And this is one of the beauties of doing florals. Now, you guys, this is going to be the front. So I have more greenery hanging out down the front than down the back. Just so you know, as I'm arranging, that is what I'm doing. So the beauty of this is that you can easily switch up the florals, so you can change this out. So as much as I'm looking at doing a combination of these little picks, the combination of the two, kind of again, sort of summery, fallish colors, you can pop those out later and add to this some pine cones and some berries, take it into Christmas. Pop those out afterward and start adding in maybe like some lavender sprigs and things later. So you can switch out your decor that way, and don't be afraid to play with it, right? So you're just sticking these in, pulling them out. So, you know, from that perspective, that's kind of the fun part of this, is that you can start with a very neutral base, which is, you know, this weathered wood and white wax, and then you can take it in any direction that you want. So what I'm starting with here are a couple of the yellows, and I'm just sort of angling into the corners to start because I want to make sure, okay, I don't like you there, I like you there. And just mostly because you want some balance. So I don't want it all angular, but I'm very cognizant of the fact that I have 7 sprigs of this. And again, just creating some balance there. I'm going to save these last 2 until after I get some of these white ones in, just again, so that I can make sure that I can fill them where it needs to go. Pushing through a leaf doesn't work. Okay, so I'm taking the white guys sort of in between. So you can see there, and have these a little bit more poking up in the middle. And really, like, this is how quickly that this builds, right? It's that fast. And you just back there. And now I need a little bit of yellow in the center. And coming down forward. and you can zhuzh it up a little bit more, but it's that quick, right? And just those little sprigs of the flowers kind of perks it up. So super sweet. And that's number 2 done. Now, the next one is probably going to be a little bit more fallish. It's going to involve, you know, some ribbons. I've got a bunch of different fall ribbons over here that we're going to play with depending, because it's this big guy. And we're going to create him as a door hanger. And I'm going to pull together some florals. And here we're going to be able to do bigger. So, yeah, I'm so excited to do this one. So let me find some flowers, and then we'll start working on him together. But I'm looking at the time, and it's probably not going to be today. So, you know, wardrobe change. Okay, I am so excited to be working on this guy. I love the idea of using unusual pieces. Like this is really crusted, really rusty, really old, and I think it's gonna be awesome. So what I want to do is I want to do a couple of things. Everything that I attach, I want to glue on first, just to kind of hold it in place. So I'm gonna use some hot glue for that. I've got this guy warming up. And then I'm gonna wire it in place. And when I do that, I'll create a hanging loop. And then we can do ribbon and whatever afterward, but at least get it in place. So what I did do is, because I'm kind of a little bit more fall inspired with this, and because this is all rusty, I deliberately went and chose some flowers. Look how lovely that is, that are in kind of those rusty kind of tones, because they're gonna work with this. But it also means that they're kind of a little bit more fallish, right? So I'm not doing straight fall, meaning I'm not doing, you know, maple leaves in the fall tones and everything. So it would work now through, like, you know, all through August, September, October kind of thing perfectly well without it being pumpkins, you know? Does that make sense? So these little guys that I had used in our little blue basket, I have 3 of those. So just to give it a little bit of length, I thought that I would kind of attach those down a little bit lower. And then we can put the big blossoms, and then we can do a bow, right? So we're gonna get those glued down, and just, you know, the gluing just helps me keep everything in place and not turning around as I decide to, well, as I work on getting things wired. It's gonna hold it all in place. The wire is gonna be the main piece, and we'll kind of cover the wire over with our ribbon, but it just kind of, oh, that just anchors that really, really well. Perfect. Oh, God bless the person that invented hot glue. And the only thing that I'm trying to do is kind of keep this sort of, you know, kind of bending the florals in a way so that I can kind of keep it as, I don't want to say tidy, but as easy to end up tying over as possible without a lot of fuss. Okay, all right, that'll, this glue gun, it just, look, it's lying here on its side, spitting glue out, right? Oh, I need a new glue gun. All right, so what I do have is I have 2 of these big, beautiful blooms, and then I have this smaller one, which doesn't have the deep rusty tones, but has a light rusty tones, which works. So I was thinking of putting these two kind of off to the side-ish. And again, I want to bend my wires so that I can kind of glue them in a way that is going to hold them in place with everything, but keeps them tied together here for wiring purposes afterward. And I don't want to have this so long that it's sticking up there. Cut this guy off too. I'm excited about this one. Okay, let me just glue over top of them. Okay, I have one left of these little, I don't know, like wheat sort of looking guys. So I'm gonna put him in just as a little bit of extra texture because I only have the one. He's gonna go right in the middle around those blooms because then, you know, being centered, it's gonna look balanced still. And then we're gonna pop this guy in there, into the middle as well. So it started to drip in a way that looked like it was heading for my fingers. Gosh, I really love these colors. This is looking awesome. Okay, let's hold that down a little bit to let that glue dry. And then I have some small leaves that I think I'm just gonna tuck in there just to fill it in a little bit. So, assuming this is all in place. This is it already. Look at how cool that looks, right? Oh, gosh. I tell you, sometimes, it's always these little kind of things that it's like so exciting. All right, so I just want a little bit of green coming down up there. Ow. And let's get another little one on the other side just to fill in a little bit coming down from the flowers. Cool. So I put a little bit of green on either side to kind of fill in there. Yeah, definitely going to need a little bit of wire. And I think we'll just maybe do the same, a little dab of glue, just having some of the leaves popping here. Just to fill that in a little bit. Okay, so what I do have is some aluminum wire. And this is pretty sturdy wire, but it's really kind of soft and flexible and bendable, which just makes it a lot easier to be able to manipulate on your own, and it cuts like a breeze. I got this from the dollar store. So I think this little roll was like $1.50-ish, maybe. So not very much. And what I want to do is I'm going to cut a piece off because it's so much easier to use. And I want a loop at the back. So I'm just going to kind of twist this a little bit so that I have that loop. And then keep that where it needs to be. And I can take my wire around. twist it closed. So if I have my loop, and that's gonna hang, that's gonna hold it in place just fine. So cool, right? So now we need to do our big bow. I'm not the greatest bow maker, I'm just gonna say, but we're gonna fake it. So I went through my ribbon stash. What I didn't wanna do was have anything that had like pumpkins or that was super fallish, because we're kind of in a little bit of that neutral. So what I do have is I have this ribbon, which has just got florals, and it's just sort of in that same sort of tone, right? And then I have just a plain green, and I'm gonna layer that one over top of this. And then I have, so here's where I'm not so great at bows is I have no way of knowing how much ribbon I need. People that make bows all the time, like my mother, is awesome. She just grabs like an amount and it's perfect. It's the, how do you know that? I guess you just have to make a million bows and then you're good. I don't make that many bows. So, you know, some people are more bow people than others. And I'm not a huge bow person, but this one needs a bow. So I also have this little ribbon, which is just kind of cute. It's just got little leaves on it. And I think, again, having that one in the middle of that, assuming I can make everything stay lined up as it should, then we're good. So I am probably going to be using more ribbon than I need because it's not my forte. So I'm going to cut. Now I'm going to commit. You are not the best cutting scissors. And in place. And get my halfway mark. Roughly. I'm not agonizing over it, as you can see. So I'm going to slip my halfway mark down over. Now, you could just wrap your ribbon, glue it in place, and then make a bow and glue it in place if you want to. Just saying, there are easier options. Oh, I like those ribbons together. Okay. So I just want to tie these guys once to make sure that they're all lined up over top of all of that wire. Okay, awesome. I'm just doing a double knot so that they stay firmly in place and I don't have it slipping out of my bow. And then now, I'm just gonna line up my ribbon. So here's our bow. I had the big ribbons come down the middle. I wove them around the center flower, and then I took the other two ribbons in behind the two side flowers. Just that space looks a little barren. So I have one more of these sprigs, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the little pieces off, the little flowers. so I can get to them. So I'm going to cut those off, and I'm just going to glue those in there to kind of fill that in and tie it all together. Okay, let's take a look at our finished projects. The idea behind this is, one, I need a little bit more kind of color in the front that is not in sort of the summery pinks and things, but that still kind of works with the fact that we're still a little bit of summer, but it leads into fall. And, you know, just doing like a little wildflower basket like this, which I think is super adorable. It can hang on a wall. It could hang on just a cabinet knob. It could hang on your front door, or, you know, hanging. I like the idea of hanging it from a ribbon in front of a mirror, right? So if you've seen that. And again, pretty easy to kind of switch this out, right? That all of these picks you can pull out, but you know, we've got a little bit of the fall tones in there, but still kind of works for this season. Oh, I forgot this is cement. It's pretty heavy. So this guy, we used the same little greenery that we had when we thrifted this, but we've taken it off, we've washed it, we've reduced it by one of the big sprigs, and then we've added in some quick little florals just to kind of brighten it up. Definitely still makes it look summery, but easily can work into, just this one's bugging me, it needs to be a little lower. But can easily work into leading into fall. You could leave all of this and then just tuck a little bit more fall, like a little bit more orangey blooms in amongst it, or pop these out and keep the yellow, add the orange blooms into it, and or, you know, tuck a couple of little pumpkins, and then you're there. You can easily pop all these out, add Christmas in. So, you know, a lot of your decor, especially things like this that aren't glued into place, are changeable, right? Then we have, okay, my personal favorite is this guy, which isn't changeable. I mean, we've glued it, we've wired it, it is staying in place, but using an unconventional item as the base. So you can make your floral decorations on anything. And when I saw this guy, I had to have it, and I needed to do something that was going to fit with it. And taking the rusty colors from the natural rusted patina on this item just kind of took it in the direction that I wanted to go. So, you know, I hope that this kind of gives you some ideas on how to transition your decor, how to use some unconventional items for your decor as well, which makes it a little bit more of a talking piece and certainly a lot of fun. Hope you got a couple of ideas. That's the main thing with these videos. And I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.